Here are some of the strangest and most bizarre events in history that you have probably never heard of before. The summer of 1858 turned into a total nightmare for London. The River Thames, which flows right through the middle of the city, had essentially become an open sewer. All the waste and polluted water from houses, industries, and hospitals were dumped directly into the river. But as the summer heat intensified, the water level in the Thames began to drop, and a horrific stench started rising from the river. This terrible smell completely engulfed the entire city. People literally began soaking their home curtains and bed sheets in a chlorine solution, hanging them up just to block the foul odor from coming inside. The shocking part was that this intense stench even troubled the members of the British Parliament, eventually forcing them to suspend the parliamentary session. Records show that they went as far as bleaching the window curtains, but the smell remained completely uncontrolled. This entire incident is famously known as the Great Stink of London. Later, the government finally took action and built a brand new, modern sewage system designed by Sir Joseph Bazalgette. This system was so advanced that parts of it are still being used today. Number 2. Mailing a child as a parcel. In 1913, a new parcel post system was introduced in America. Through this system, people started shipping large goods and packages instead of just regular letters. Back then, people began trying out highly creative and sometimes bizarre ideas. Some would mail live chickens, while others posted bags of potatoes. Amidst this trend, a shocking incident came to light on February 19, 1914. In the town of Grangeville, Idaho, there was a little 4-year-old girl named Charlotte May Piersdorf. That is when they came up with a bizarre idea. Their plan was to mail little May as a parcel post. According to the parcel post regulations of that era, mailing a human being wasn't explicitly forbidden because the rules weren't properly defined yet. They literally stuck proper postage stamps directly onto May's clothing and sent her along with a railway mail clerk. Amazingly, the system allowed it, and Charlotte was safely delivered to her grandparents' house, just like a standard parcel. When the news went public, the entire country was shocked, making massive headlines in the newspapers. Following this incident, the Postal Department immediately changed its rules, officially announcing that mailing human beings is strictly illegal. This incident remains a classic example of how strangely people can exploit loopholes in a newly introduced system. In 1973, a British couple, Maurice and Marilyn Bailey, were sailing towards New Zealand in their small yacht. Their dream was to start a completely new chapter of their lives. However, on March 4, their boat collided with a massive sperm whale. The impact was so severe that the boat slowly began to sink. They quickly scrambled to throw some food items and a little water into an inflatable raft and began drifting helplessly into the vast ocean. They didn't face too many issues during the first few days, but gradually, their stored food supplies completely ran out. Driven by intense hunger, they resorted to catching fish from the ocean, and rainwater became their only hope for survival. Months passed by. They endured heavy storms, scorching sunlight, and relentless rain, holding on to the single hope that someone would rescue them. Bizarrely, several large ships passed remarkably close to them, but absolutely no one noticed their raft. Every single time they thought they were finally getting rescued, they were met with crushing disappointment. Finally, after a grueling 117 days at sea, a South Korean fishing boat spotted them on June 30th. By then, they had lost an extreme amount of weight, and their bodies were so frail that they couldn't even stand up. Following their rescue, they wrote a book detailing their nightmare titled 117 Days Adrift. Their incredible tale stunned the entire world. This story became a legendary example globally of how human willpower and hope can keep you alive, even in the middle of a barren ocean. In 1884, Gustav Eiffel and his team of engineers finalized the design for the Eiffel Tower, and its construction kicked off in 1887. It was built specifically for the 1889 World's Fair, the Paris Exposition Universelle, where France wanted to showcase its modern engineering prowess and progress to the world. At that time, a vast majority of Parisian locals and famous artists were vehemently against the tower. They viewed it as a hideous, iron monster that would permanently ruin the classic beauty of their city. Because of this massive backlash, the Eiffel Tower was given a permit to stand for only 20 years, meaning the original plan was to completely demolish it in 1909. But shockingly, the Eiffel Tower survived. This happened because, during the early 1900s, the use of radio antennas started growing rapidly in France. Engineers quickly realized that the towering structure was the perfect location for radio transmissions. Gustave Eiffel himself successfully convinced the government to preserve it for scientific purposes, resulting in the demolition plan being officially cancelled. In 1599, the Capuchin monks of Palermo preserved the body of one of their deceased fellow monks and placed it inside the catacombs. However, this practice gradually transformed into a full-blown tradition, and over time, many more bodies were placed there. To this day, over 8,000 mummified bodies have been accumulated in the catacombs. Among them, the most famous mummy belongs to Rosalia Lombardo, a little girl who still looks completely alive today. But long before her, the skeletons placed there between the 16th and 17th centuries were occasionally arranged in very strange, lifelike poses, making it look as though they were walking or dancing. Because of this unique arrangement, the site is often referred to as the dancing skeletons of Palermo. Strangely, a popular folklore developed among the locals that some of these skeletons would actually move around at night. While this was undoubtedly a trick of vivid imaginations and shifting shadows, the people of that era firmly believed it was a supernatural phenomenon. In 1519, a Spanish explorer named Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico alongside his small army. At that time, the mighty Aztec Empire was at its absolute peak, ruled by Emperor Montezuma II. But when Montezuma and Cortés met face to face for the very first time, the situation took a highly unusual turn. Emperor Montezuma genuinely believed that Cortés was a living god. An ancient Aztec prophecy had foretold that a fair-skinned deity named Quetzalcoatl would eventually return, and Hernán Cortés' physical appearance matched this prophecy perfectly. Consequently, instead of treating him as an invading enemy, Montezuma welcomed him warmly as an honored guest. Bizarrely, Montezuma showered Cortés with immense gifts of gold and vast treasures to maintain peace. However, seeing this incredible wealth only fueled the greed of the Spanish soldiers, who realized the Aztecs possessed unimaginable riches. Within the next few weeks, Cortés boldly took Emperor Montezuma hostage inside his very own palace. The emperor, who was once revered as a god-like figure by his people, became a mere prisoner of the Spanish, marking the rapid downfall of the Aztec Empire. By 1520, massive riots erupted across the Aztec capital. Montezuma was still heavily under Spanish control during this chaos, but he died shortly after. To this day, the exact cause of his death remains heavily debated and unclear. The most shocking aspect of this history is how a single cultural misunderstanding and a mistaken prophecy completely pushed the entire Aztec Empire into total collapse. If Emperor Montezuma had treated Cortés as an enemy right from the start, world history might look completely different today. Today, the Sydney Opera House stands as a world-famous landmark, but the story behind its construction is wildly chaotic. In 1957, a Danish architect named Jorn Utzon won the design competition for the building. At the time, it was estimated that the structure would cost a mere $7 million and take just 4 years to complete. Construction officially began in 1959, but Utzon's design proved to be so incredibly complex that engineers initially had no practical clue how to actually build it. Architectural plans had to be continuously altered, and entirely new construction techniques had to be invented on the fly. Then came a relentless wave of political drama and controversies. Massive clashes erupted between the government and Utzon. Frustrated, Utzon officially resigned from the project in 1966 and left the country, leaving other architects to scramble and take over the work. When the Opera House was finally completed in 1973, the final cost skyrocketed to a staggering $102 million, nearly 15 times the original estimate. What was supposed to be a quick 4-year project took an agonizing 14 years to finish. Today, the Sydney Opera House is a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site and the defining symbol of Australia, but back then, it was heavily mocked as the world's greatest cost blowout. Which of these historical events did you find the most shocking? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and share this video. See you in the next one. Thank you.